welcome to my garage. So today, working on the Tahoe again. If you're watching this, then you've either been plagued by this issue and you're here to try to figure out a solution for it, or you're just aware of it and are curious and want to know. So these trucks are known for heater hose issues, specifically the connections at the firewall. They have, on the trucks with rear AC, or rear heat, well, AC and heat, whatever, they have two T connectors that split off and go to the heater core in the dash, and then also the rear heater core for the rear heat. Apologies for the background noise ahead of time. It is super windy out here today. Trying a new mic, so hopefully that helps a little bit. But they have two T connectors that tend to fail. And then on these and the pickup trucks, not just this generation either, dating all the way back to, I think, what, 98, 99, the connectors at the end of the hoses where they go to the heater core also fail. It's a crimped on plastic connector onto a heater hose. They break all the time. And I'm going to try to bulletproof it on this truck. So I bought a whole lot of Dorman products. Now, on the pickup trucks, like I said, you just have the two connectors on the end of the hoses that go to the firewall. You can get metal replacements. These just have a barb on the end. You break out the old plastic one, you slip that over it, and crimp it down, or clamp it down there with a new hose clamp, or you're good to go. I don't know if this same part number works on the pickup trucks. This is the one that it calls out for on these Tahoes that connect to the T connector. So one for each hose, inlet and outlet. Like I said, on these Tahoes, Suburbans, Yukons, Escalades, anything with rear heat, should be this Dorman 800-403 HP. That is the metal one. So two of those. Then we have the T connectors themselves. These are different. Inlet and outlet have different part numbers. Whether or not they're actually physically different, I don't know. They look pretty dang similar to me. Well, no, one does have a slightly different angle on it. Again, you could probably use the same one for both hoses. I don't know. But T-fitting, all metal. Again, Dorman. This one's part number 800-413 HP and 414 HP for the metal versions. Again, it's all metal, no plastic. I mean, there's little plastic in the little clips that go on it, but it's a clip. Aside from that, down by the water pump where the heater hose lines actually split off, there is another plastic Y connector. Dorman sells a metal version of that as well. So we're going to get rid of that in the same process. Also have somewhere, there it is, bunch of heater hose. Probably going to replace the whole length of heater hose running from the water pump up to the up to these fittings. Also have somewhere, just in case, a bunch of hose connectors, hose clamps. These are the worm style ones instead of the spring clamp ones. For everybody, you're supposed to use the spring ones, they hold better. Look, worm style clamps have worked fine for many generations. That's what I'm going to put on it. I really don't care. Aside from that, I just recently put replacement plastic ones on it. And just because I get in town while these were leaking. Luckily, they didn't leave me stranded on the side of the road like happens many of the times with other people, unfortunately. I caught these in the driveway. So they've got new plastic T connectors in them. And I literally cut the plastic connectors off the hoses and slid them over it, clamped them on. And the hoses are pulled pretty tight. So hence the reason for the extra hose. And just going to replace all that and give it a little bit more slack so the engine can move around. Not that it's supposed to move around a lot, but it happens. And try to save as much as the Dex Cool coolant as I can because it's pretty fresh. I just put it in. These plastic fittings, the new ones, have been in there for like maybe 2 months. So the coolant that's in there is pretty fresh. So I'm going to wipe out my drain bucket and try to catch and save as much as I can. I think I have a gallon extra of Dex Cool right now to put back in it if I need it. But I'm going to start the time lapse and get to draining and ripping these hoses out, and we'll pick up from there. Start building hoses to put back in it. To show you the two hoses in question, these two guys right up here. Like I said, the why is my light on? The T connectors back here are fairly new, and I literally just slid the old hoses over it and put some clamps on them, and that's been working fine. But if you'll notice on the factory hoses, these little lines, that's actually where they're supposed to line up with this clamp, and you see how far pulled taut they are, and it's putting a good amount of tension. It's actually starting to crimp or like pinch this hose right here. So and that's the other plastic connector that's prone to failure as well. We're going to replace that too. So pretty much this whole section, that T connector and these two hoses that run all the way up, along with the connectors in there, all getting replaced. New hoses, new metal. Alright, as you saw, heater hoses are out, T-connectors are out, hoses all the way down to the water pump. Got a pan under there trying to catch some of this. Even took it off the coolant reservoir bottle there. So they all come off together. This is one of them. I don't know offhand if it's inlet or outlet, but as you can see, the end of the hose usually has a plastic connector that slips onto this T-connector. That's actually what broke in my case the first time around. But since I was opening the system, I went ahead and put new T-connectors on it. However, all I could find in town were the plastic ones, so that's what I put on it at the time. But yeah, being just cut off the old connector, slid this over, it took away a little bit of hose length. So that's why I got a new hose to just replace it. And this is the other one. Same scenario there. Plastic T-connector, just slid the end of the hose over, put a clamp on it. It runs down to this plastic Y connector, which are also prone to failure and are just crimped on. So I'm actually going to get this off of here. Just have to bust it up and do a bunch of pieces after cutting these plastic crimps off, and have the metal replacement for that too. Got our two hoses made up. The only thing I'm reusing is the bigger piece that goes up to the reservoir tank. I don't foresee that being a problem. I did reuse a couple of the, or like one used clamp. The other 3 spring clamps are the ones that came with the kit with this metal Y connector. As you can see, I left a couple of the clamps off. Well, that one that connects to the water pump. That one just so I can make sure the T connector is clocked right, not putting strain on this hose. Once that's in there, I'll go ahead and put that clamp on the rest of the way. We got our new slip connectors on here on the ends of each one. Got our new 2 fittings. Quick tip on these. When these slide into these fittings here, there's a double O-ring inside of this fitting. Take some grease or even some sort of oil and put a little bit on the end of that so those O-rings slide over without ripping them. And do the same things up here on these fittings at the firewall and the lines that run in the back. Just slather a little grease or a little oil of any sort, doesn't really matter. Just something for those O-rings to slide over without pinching and ripping them open as you're installing them, because that would really suck. So I'm gonna set you back up. Set you back up, and I'm gonna get the T-fittings installed first up here, and then I'm gonna put the hoses back in. We now have all new metal connectors, metal T-fittings, metal slide over connectors there, new hoses all the way down, even clipped into the factory little bracket there, metal T-connector there, had to use a worm clamp there, didn't have any more spring clamps, whatever, but used one of the factory ones there, and this hose leading up to the reservoir. Original hose, but that's it. I'm gonna put some coolant back in it, make sure nothing leaks. These, as you're sliding them on, when you're sliding them on, they give a good click. Of course, they're gonna move around a little bit, but you can give them a good tug. They're not going anywhere. They are locked in solid, and you can always double check and make sure that that little white tab right there is locked in into its square, and it is solidly locked in. So, yep. I'm gonna put some coolant back in it. Alright. New hoses are in. Currently running. I'm gonna burp all the air out of the system. Don't worry about a little bit of wetness there. That's just for me hosing everything off. Letting it come up to temperature. Get the thermostat to open. And get all the air bled out of these lines. So far we got no leaks. No drippy. I think we're good to go. I said I'm gonna let it come up with temperature so that thermostat opens up. Make sure we get all the air out of this system, and we'll be good to go. And of course, heat is on full blast. Not really sure why I have the AC on. That's unnecessary. Heat's on full blast. Rear heat's on full blast. Trying to get all the air burped out of these coolers and the lines. On a side note, for 210,000 miles, the noisiest thing under the hood is the alternator. And it's fairly clean. Granted, some of that may be my doing when I changed the valve cover gaskets, but still. Hard to complain about that at 210,000 miles. She is smooth.